All right. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Confidence Hustle interviews. I'm Joyce Fine, and I talk with women from all walks of life who are killing it with their confidence. And tonight, we're lucky to be talking with Nancy Fox about the confidence to make a career change after 40. Since we're doing this on recording, you can't put your comments in, unfortunately, but we're happy to hear your comments afterwards and on Facebook. So let me tell you a little bit about our guest, Nancy Fox. She is a career advancement and transition coach and the founder and president of the Business Fox. Nancy uses her 20 years of world-class coaching and training experience to help individuals create prosperous careers doing what they love. Nancy is a speaker and the author of 2 books, Network Like a Fox and Make Rain Without the Pain. Nancy, thank you so much for being here tonight with me and with
Joyce,
our viewers. How are you?
I'm so happy to be with you, and we're with everybody in spirit, even though we can't be with you live. We are so persistent. You know, we tried every trick in the book to get on to Facebook Live through Zoom and just wasn't cooperating, but It's going to be an awesome conversation anyway. So
it really, really is. And we're going to get to that persistence later on in our interview because we're definitely going to talk about that a little bit. So let me start by asking you how you came to be the Business Fox. What were the circumstances that got you into that arena or that area?
So when I made the career transition, people really weren't, this is going back so many years, people really weren't doing it so much back then. It was a very rare thing. You either were a natural entrepreneur and were a natural business owner, which I was not, or you were a corporate person. And that's what I was. I was really a corporate person.
Right.
And what happened was very strange, actually, because one day, I will never forget this. I was talking to a really good friend of mine. I was in the women's underwear industry, and it was a very unique, unusual, and a very small industry. And there were only so many companies that you could go to. I don't know, maybe there were 40 or 50 companies. That was it. And I started to realize, I thought the doors were starting to close. I was at a VP level. I knew everybody in the industry. They knew me. And I could tell that the doors were starting to close. The industry was changing. Victoria's Secret owned everything. And I didn't like where it was going. It was going very downscale. I was upscale. And the whole, the culture was starting to be very unpleasant. The ethics were going down, and I just knew I knew I was not going to fit. But I didn't know what else to do because I figured, hey, the only thing I really know are bras. That's it. But that's all I knew.
Right.
I knew them, but that's all I knew. But here's what happened. This went on for about 4 years. Where I was crying every day. I was making a lot of money, but I was crying. I hated it. Hated it.
Yeah.
Nobody around me was saying, yeah, go for it. They're going, what are you, nuts? Just shut up and take the paycheck. And I was now in my mid 40s, right? And I said, well, what am I going to do? And then the answer happened anyway, because they closed my division. So when they closed my division, I had a choice. The first thought I had was, well, you better get your resume ready. And then I went, in the next breath, I said, no, I'm never going to write another resume again in my whole life. I'm never going to work for anybody in my whole life. And I knew in that moment that I had to find another pathway, but nobody who's going to help me? Nobody knew how to help me figure it out, because they didn't have career coaches. They had resume writers. They had recruiters, but there really weren't people who could say, oh, you could do this, you could do this, you could do this. It wasn't like that. But I heard about coaching. I hired a coach. And I took I took one course that was the mind blower of mind blowers. And that course, and this is the weird thing about it. See, you really have to not make an assumption that you know everything until you go all the way through a process. The last day, on the last hour of the last day of the course, they started talking about purpose. And I went, oh, that's why I've been so unhappy. I I'm not living my purpose. So that what sent me on a quest for what's the purpose. And I started to look at the leader of the course and I said, I think I would really like to do what he's doing. So I had a conversation with him. And I said, do you think I could do what you do? Do you think I could be a coach? And he said, wow. He said, absolutely. He said, the only thing that makes a really great coach is to go be a great coach. And with your background, and I did, I had a really good business background.
Yes.
That's how it began, but I didn't know how to sell anything. I didn't know. And remember, I was wearing this cloak, vice president. That's what I knew. I had worked for years to get there.
Right.
And without that, I felt like nothing. I said, what am I going to tell people I'm a coach? They don't even know what this is.
Right.
It was so weird. But I really liked it so much. I was so intrigued by the idea, and I loved mentoring people. So I really liked the idea of it. I didn't know exactly how it was going to work, but I knew that that was a good direction for me. I could feel it in my bones, intuitively. And then the process of actually going to make it happen. My first client, it's the funniest thing. I'll never forget my first client. I don't know. I got my first, I did a couple of two or three clients that were pro bono. And my third client, I think, was I asked for being paid. And he said, well, what are you going to work with me on? And I go, I don't know. I just had no friggin' idea. But it all worked out in the end because very soon thereafter, I got executive clients who were struggling with their bosses. Hey, I know that.
Right.
And I really got the whole, I swore I was never going to go back into corporate anything, but you know what? And that's when I started to really get
That's
traction.
such a great story, Nancy. And I really love when you said, I'm never going to write another resume again. And I think
honestly,
that is just such
it didn't take courage.
Yes.
It really wasn't courage. It was like, now this is for anybody listening to this. If you just be quiet and stop trying to strategize and figure it all out, and you pay attention to your intuition, I swear a voice came to me and said, don't do that, do this. I started to really understand. I was getting a lot of messages that I had not been paying attention to. And I still get messages. If I shut up and I listen, I get them.
That's so intuitive. So could you give an example of a message that maybe in the past you would have ignored, but now that you're tuned into those things, you would pay attention to it?
Yes, I have one perfect one that I think a lot of women are going to really relate with. An idea came to me, let's say, I evolve my business all the time. I add things, I just, eliminate things. And an idea came to me. I think I watched somebody talk about something on some podcast or some program or whatever. And I went, that's interesting. And I started to craft something around something similar, my own version of it.
Right.
And the voice said, be yourself, be yourself, be yourself. And so I trust that voice now. And I went, bye, gone.
Right.
So now I listen. When I need to hear the voice, I stop working. I start painting or dance. I go paint or I dance or I do something not intellectual. And so the voice comes. If you really, really listen, the voice will come.
Right.
But
right.
train your mind to listen for it. And intuition is a really cool thing. And there's a difference between intuition and fear. Fear sounds like you can feel it in your body. You'll know if it's fear, not intuition. If you'll feel it wherever you feel fear. If you feel it in your shoulders, your head, your belly.
Yeah.
But intuition is it's almost like the alphabet letters in the soup rise to the top.
Yeah. And I love the idea. It's just so important, you know, to stop, get out of your environment, do something creative, let your mind take a break. And that's when the alphabet soup letters rise to the top, right? So
Yeah.
such great advice.
There's one other example that has to
Yeah.
do with Business Fox and how I got my business name, which
Mm,
you guys will really appreciate. I had hired a brand. My first business name was called Fox Coaching Associates, and it was a very corporate. It was really corporate, you know, the whole thing. And I went around, I don't know, maybe I was in my business about 10 or 12 years. I felt like I needed to be more expressive, more spunky, more sassy. And so I wanted to rebrand, and I hired a branding person to help me. It was interesting, some good ideas, but not the it, right? And then one day, somebody tweeted about me and said something like, Nancy Fox, that business Fox. And I went,
that's it.
and a lot of people had opinions about whether I should do that or not, like, oh, that's too sexist, but I knew like
Just
that.
felt right.
And
Hmm.
it has allowed me to network like a fox, career fox. I mean, it was the door opening. And if I had not trusted my intuition, I wouldn't have done it.
Right. That's great.
You have to listen to the voice. Wherever you hear a voice, it's like I don't know, if you really get quiet, you'll hear it.
And it's something that is, you know, Nancy Fox, it's your name. It's been your name for your whole life. And it was right.
So now only since I was married. So I
Oh,
got something.
well, I thought it was your maiden name. Okay, sorry.
It was a
But it's
married name,
been,
but
yeah, it's just been in front of you, I guess is where I'm getting to, but you didn't see it that way until somebody else pointed it out, and it was like, that's the light bulb. That's really great. So let me ask you, going into just um, building off of that, when you made that, you decided, I'm going out on my own. I'm never going to write my own resume again, which I love that. Um, what was the most, and you had shared with us, you know, your client, you had a client and he said, well, what are you going to do for me? And you were like, I don't know. So going off of that, what would you say was the most challenging part of the career switch for you, and how did you handle it?
fear of money.
Yeah. Hmm. So what happened? How did you
Well,
move forward with that?
I it was a very this was really powerful for me because a lot of people had a lot of opinions about this. They were yelling at me, are you crazy? Are you crazy? Are you crazy? You'll never work. You can't sell. You'll never make it. And I went, watch me. And I didn't know that I really was gonna, but I said,
I had
I'm
to
not
prove it,
listening to you.
right?
I just couldn't report to anybody. I had no really had no choice. I couldn't bear it. So anyway, what happened was I read a lot of books. I sort of put myself through a master's of how to start your own business and how to get over the mental bridge. And the
Mhm.
mental bridge was the hardest. The very first book that I read, I'm not trying, I can't remember how I think I went to, we're going back a lot of years, Kinko's. I was in Kinko's and I saw the book sitting there,
Yeah.
and I went, and they had some good books in there, and it was called Unstoppable by Cynthia Kersey. And
Mm,
oh my God, that book has been my Bible, even to this day. There were 45 stories of ordinary people who made extraordinary leaps.
it's great.
And I needed to, and those stories of like, when they told stories about Katie Couric, she was told that she should never be on TV, and all these famous people who were told you'll never make it, and Mary Kay, and this one and that. And I said, oh my God, this is so, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. And I just really went on a mental mindset transformation for a long time. It took every single bit, and I just was completely um, I was pretty relentless. I just worked on it every day. And I started to learn how to network. And again, the voice
Mm.
came. One day I met somebody at a networking event, and I said, oh, well, I'll follow up with you. I didn't know what I was going to say to her. I had no idea what to say in a follow up. And I didn't want to be salesy because I knew it would be horrible. So the voice said, when I literally dialed the phone and I said, listen, I'm not calling you I'm just calling to network. The voice said, say networking. And and then we just got into a conversation, and that led to new clients, and that led to other
So
people.
great.
And
Uh-huh.
the voice is magic.
And it took the pressure off when you said network.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
I looked for things that would take the pressure off, and I used it. The other thing I did a lot when I went to networking events, first of all, I needed to learn how to network. I went with a friend of mine,
Mhm.
and she knew how to network. And we both walked in at the same time. And an hour and a half later, we came back out. She had 20 business cards, and I had two. And
Ah.
I watched her, and she didn't really talk much. I know I'm talking a lot, but I have good
That's
stories.
okay. No, that's good.
So, but I have so many good stories to tell. I really want to inspire you guys. So I said, I watched you. You didn't talk very much. Because no, I asked questions and I shut up. Oh, that's how you network. So I learned when I would go into networking events, I had two goals. One, be speak surprised by people, be curious and be surprised by them. So it took the pressure off. And secondly, just be really good at asking questions.
Right.
And that really helped a lot. So people
Yeah.
started to realize that I had good questions for them. They started asking me about me. And I watched other coaches who would be in the room, and they were pushing people away. I watched people like run away from them. And
Yeah.
so it just worked out. It really worked out. And I really learned to love it too.
That is really great. And I guess, when you're kind of in this position of, it's about them, it's not about you, that creates this, it creates this approachable environment. So it really gives you a chance to really get in there, which is that's very
Exactly.
exciting.
It
So,
was.
um, so when you said that the most challenging part of the career switching was the money, and then but when you coach now and you work with women who are trying to make the career switch, what do you think that it's the most challenging thing is for most of them?
I think they're afraid to ask for money.
Yeah.
And I think they're afraid to ask for more money. And they're afraid to say no to a potential client. So, first of all, there was some really, really specific awarenesses that allowed me to be a higher earner in this new field. The first thing I said is, look, you got to replicate your salary or it's just not doable. So it was a clear thing.
Hmm.
And I knew that it was a mental game I said, if I did it once, I can do it again. So I made up my mind to see myself that way. A lot of women, for those women, if you are not seeing yourself like that, that's what you need to go to work on, seriously. And I'm not kidding around. Then there were the guidelines that the people who were teaching you how to coach and build a practice
Mm.
were telling me, you have to charge like this and you have to do it like that and you have to get new clients every 30 minutes. And I went, this sucks. I hate this. This is not the way I don't buy this. This is how much I'm going to make. This is how much I'm worth. I was networking in a small town. In fact, I lived not far from where you are. I lived in Nyack at the time.
Nice
It
town.
was a small networking,
Yeah.
very small businesses there. And the light bulb went on and I said, oh, their businesses are too small for me. I need to go to New York. So luckily I lived near New York and I started networking in New York and there were bigger earners there. And that opened up a whole other level. So my personal brand right from the get-go was a top tier level of client base. It had to be that way because I
Really
needed.
great. Yes.
So
Hmm.
you have to be very strategic about that. And you have to really make up your mind to provide the kind of solutions and values that people will be willing to pay you for. They will pay you if you give them not what they need, but what they want. They will pay you if it's a must-have, not a nice-to-have. And that's what I needed to figure out. What do they must have? And that's what I started to strategize. Then it became about strategy. So the thing is, most women, and I've spoken to hundreds of women, and I'll say, well, how much would you want to earn every month. And they say, well, this is what they'll say to me on a regular basis. And I'm sure, Joyce, that you've run into this. And if any of you are listening and this is resonating with you, you know, this has come out of your mouth at one point, you need to go to work on this. They'll say, well, I don't need to be wealthy. I just need to make X.
Mm.
Well, you're going to set yourself up for, you now have set yourself up for you're not commanding what you're worth, and you're doing it because you're afraid you don't think you can get it. And you're setting yourself up for taking less than you deserve and less than you're worth. So that whole way of seeing yourself first, or commanding your worth mindset wise, is critical. And then you need a way to articulate and match what you want to offer with what the market really must have. So one part is the psychology, the second part is strategy. They have to go hand in hand.
That's great advice. And the mindset piece that you were discussing before, it leads me to my next question, because I feel, and I've heard you talk about this many times before, imposter syndrome creeps in, and people are then all of a sudden, and I think women especially, are thinking they can't do it, or they don't deserve it, or can you talk a little bit about imposter syndrome for our listeners?
So the reason it's so common for women, now this is not, obviously this is a generalization, but women have been socialized to demonstrate their worth and prove their worth. They've been told that they need to prove, to validate, to work hard, to hustle, to not negotiate, to not be bossy or bigger, or this is how we've been socialized. A lot of it comes from and I've done a lot of studying about this. It's sort of fascinating. A lot of it depends on the father figures that you grow up with. I've spoken to many, many women whose fathers have told them, who've held them in lower esteem than other people in the family. But it can come from moms too, because if your mother is, she's been socialized that way, so a lot of it is family messaging and socialization. Society reinforces it. In school, girls and women are taught to work harder, to prove themselves. And I was very fortunate. My father, he had this, and it was really interesting because he was European. So even though he had that, he didn't give me the European attitude around that. He said, you can be whatever you want, go for it. He wanted me to, he was very highly stressing on education, but he told me, and I made up my mind. I was so oblivious. I didn't even realize that there was a difference between men and women in the workplace. I had no clue.
Wow.
I was ignorant of it. I just didn't even know. Years later, of course, I started to watch other women suffering. So imposter syndrome, I sort of followed, if you ever listen to Richard Branson says, if someone asks you, to do something, always say yes first and figure out how you're going to do it later. Well, I never heard Richard Branson say that when I was starting out, but basically, I always said yes first and figured it out later. My first job as a product manager, I didn't know what I was doing. And I said, absolutely, I can do this job. I had no idea what I was doing, right. But I learned. And There were a lot of people that were pissed off at me that I was learning on their dime, but I didn't care. I knew that was the best way to do it. And I'm telling you guys, you don't have to prove yourself any more than men. Men are full of it. They don't know any better than you. They're not more capable of you, and they're more emotional than you. Believe me, I can personally attest to this. They take everything personally. They are emotional. They are the screamers. Women are very logical, actually. They will hang back and assess and evaluate, analyze, and then they'll speak. They're not really, they may cry. Men are, men have been socialized not to cry, but men react with anger and
Yeah.
big voices, and women cried. So it's you are powerful beyond your own knowledge. There is no such thing as imposter syndrome if you choose not to be that.
Right.
You're never an imposter because you grow into it. You just go for it. If you say you're going to be something, you're going to find the way in. Now, you may have to study, you may have to you might have to work hard at learning something. So what? That doesn't mean you're not. And I'm going to give you one story, and this blew me away. And I want to share this amazing story. When it comes to imposter syndrome, years after I had my business, and I was at a speaking engagement in Michigan. And at dinner the night before my presentation, one of the board members was at dinner, and we were yakking, and he said to me very arrogantly, he said, "What are you talking about?" And I said, "I'm networking." And he said, "Oh, really?" "Oh, really?" Like that, literally like that. That's horrible. And I said, "Well, what are you speaking about?" And I can't even remember what he was speaking about. I can't remember, but whatever it was, he was really like, "I'm
Yeah.
great," right?
Yeah.
And I said, "Oh my," and so of course I went back to my room going, "Oh shit, what am I going to do?" And so I really had a hard night. I had a tough night.
Mhm.
The next morning, we were at the event. He spoke before me. And about 3 minutes into his presentation, he started to sweat profusely, and he took a big pause. He took a lot of water, and he couldn't speak. He was having a panic attack.
Oh my gosh.
I looked at him and I went,
Wow. Interesting, right?
right? And I said,
Uh,
"Girlfriend, you got nothing to worry
right.
about." And and then I used the voice hit me, and the voice said, "Be yourself." And I started to do my visualization. I imagined them laughing and clapping and giving me a standing ovation. I did my visualization thing. And I knew that I knew my stuff. So I decided to be with them,
Right.
and and they laughed. They laughed, they clapped, they answered my questions when I called out. It worked out great, but he had a panic attack. Mr. Arrogance.
That's right.
And I said, "You see,
So interesting.
men are scared, and it can happen to anybody. It could happen to
Absolutely.
anybody.
Absolutely.
So there's nothing that I need to be worried about."
Right.
So when you're focused on helping other people, all of the fear goes away.
That's right. You're absolutely right. Because it's not about you anymore. It's about them. And you're putting it on them. And he was making it about himself. But you said something interesting that I'm sorry. I didn't want to. So you said something interesting about you did your visualization. So, which leads me to my next question, because I happen to know Nancy because we've worked together in the past and I was her client. And so Nancy talks a lot about journaling and being mindful. So I want to talk about that a little bit because you were talking about your visualization. How are these practices helpful for, for a positive mindset when you are career changing? And what are some of the other, would you recommend those and other practices, or what would you suggest?
Great question. So I have a lot to share about this that, I need to catch you up on some things that I haven't told you about yet since we've spoken. So I have some good stuff to share with you guys. So first of all, I've always known that managing your mindset is the most important thing. And if let's say I stop talking and you stop talking and people just sit there, they're going to hear a little voice in their heads, right? It's going all the time. That's your subconscious mind talking to you. It's going 24/7. Your subconscious mind is the most powerful part of your mind. And it is the fastest part of your brain, part of your mind. It is the most fear-based.
Mm-hmm.
It is there to protect you. It is there to keep you safe. It is there to keep you at the same place. It doesn't want you to move anywhere it doesn't really want you to advance because it's dangerous out there. It's all about survival for the subconscious mind. The conscious mind is slower, is it's more analytical, it's more strategic, and it is the part of your mind that will allow you to grow and advance and try new things, right? Unfortunately, though, we have so many more thoughts on the subconscious part of the brain, and so fewer thoughts on the conscious part, but we spend 95% of our effort on the conscious mind. Learn more, memorize more, strategize more, analyze more. Practically no time on the subconscious mind, but that's where the work, that's how you train your mindset. How do you access the subconscious part of the mind? You have to go to a deeper brainwave level. Visualization is one of them, but the other ways, and this is where I've really added some new training into my toolkit, and that's I've learned to use hypnosis with people, which allows you to access the subconscious part of the mind so that you can eliminate limiting beliefs, you can literally eradicate them, and then you can replace them with preferable thought patterns. And when your subconscious mind starts to be reinforced with those positive, beneficial thoughts, those thought patterns, those neurological thought patterns, they wire together and they fire together. And now they become the new thinking pattern. So visualization, if you practice it regularly, it starts to reframe your brain neurological pathways. And you're no longer thinking, I'm not enough, I'm terrible at this. It starts to tell you, I can do this, I will do this, I have done this. And you start to really feel it emotionally, and you start to believe it. Now, you don't have to know how. Your mind will does a lot of the work for you, but we don't learn how to tap into that. We spend 95% of our effort on the conscious mind, 5% on the subconscious mind. We need to learn to reverse it. Proof of the pudding is when the Seattle Seahawks won the Super Bowl in 2014, they hired a sports psychologist to work with them on meditation, visualization, and psychology. And they almost won a year later, like just by a couple of seconds they lost, but they really got, so in sports and in performance, people use visualization religiously because they know how important it is. But in business and in career, they don't. So here's how you can use it. You can use it for, let's say you're getting ready to make a big presentation, visualization, meditation, and hypnosis. You're going up for an interview, visualization, preparation using hypnosis. Let's say you're going for a big certification exam like the bar. Let's say you're making a pitch to a client. These are all the ways that visualization and meditation is great, but visualization is like muscle memory for your mind.
Yeah. And you see the athletes, they've got their headphones on and they're kind of going through. I remember watching the skiers in the Olympics or the ice skaters. They're going through their whole routine, and you see them doing that and how important that is for their training. So that's something that a career changer could use. Like you said, if they're going on an interview, visualizing themselves really acing the interview and answering their questions correctly, all of that stuff.
And also, like, imagine in an interview, if you're going into an interview and they hit you with an off the cuff question or like a sidebar question. If you prepare your mind like at the very deepest level through hypnosis and visualization, you can tell your mind, I believe you will give me the right answer when I most need it. That's what your mind needs to know, because you don't need to know the answer. You need to know that your mind has the answer already in there. You prepare. What you want is your brain to be your champion. You want your mind to be your champion to give you what you need when you most need it. And it will do it. It will do it.
That's so interesting.
Right? You have to tell it, I command you to, I believe and I command you to give me the exact answers I need, or know how to respond in exactly the right way in exactly the right moment.
So
So
interesting. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Um, we also talked at the very beginning of our conversation about a book that you saw in Kinko's that was called Unstoppable. And I happen to know, because I happen to know you, that that is your key word, unstoppable, or it used to be anyway.
it is.
Okay. So tell us, if you would, what is a keyword? Why is it so important? And should we all have one?
Well, I like the keyword. I call well, we could call it like a power word or an anchor word. It's really an NLP tool, a neuro linguistic programming tool. I like to use that NLP tool in combination with visualization and hypnosis. So two of them are very powerful because what happens is your mind is going to be rebooted, reprogrammed, let's say, but periodically it's going to have input that you don't feel great about. You need a reset button. The key word is the reset button. So when things are going, like, let's say you're about to, you want a client and it didn't work out the way you expected. So
Mhm.
right away, you're going to have doubts coming up and you have a choice. Your mind can say, let me go down that rabbit hole of feeling lousy. I didn't do it right. I'm never going to make this work, blah, 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 blah.
Mhm.
Or you can have a clicker or a keyword to change the channel and bring you back to the reset, the reboot thinking pattern. And that's why when I ask myself, if I don't like what's going on and I say, what's my keyword again? Oh yeah, you're unstoppable. What would an unstoppable person do? They would not be looking at what didn't work. They would be looking at move forward. But everybody's got a different keyword that resonates, that they feel great about. So I have a tool that I help people figure out what their right word is. What's your word? I think you can. What's your word?
Mine's commit.
Commit. Right. So how does it feel for you when you use that word when things aren't going the way that you would like them to go?
Well, it's more empowering. And an example, I guess, would be something, this interview, we were all planned and set up to go on Facebook, and it didn't work out. And I was really bummed out because I wanted to get you on to let everybody hear what you had to say. But you said, you're like, we're unstoppable. We're going to make this happen. And then I thought to myself, that's right. We're committing to this interview and we're going to do it no matter what. Without just throwing up our hands and going, oh, Facebook didn't work. Well, I guess we're not going to do it.
Yeah. And
Um,
I think that, we it feels sort of natural to go down. Our whole society is all based on it's not going to work, it's not going to work, it's not going to work, it won't work, it won't work, it won't work. And there are so many naysayers around us. Easy, right? So we have to work overtime on this whole, shifting the whole direction. That's why I wear it on my wrist.
yep.
And because it's easy to, no matter how many years I've been at this, I had decades of people saying they're naysayers, they're psychic vampires, and it's hard, and
Yeah.
who those people are. So you got to work at it it's something you got to work at every day. And that's why I love sharing with people, because it was never meant to be for me to have this business be what it is. If I can do it, you can do it. Why not?
Hmm.
But you've got to work at it the way I
Right.
work at it religiously.
Right. Wow. So you're right. And it's
And so do you.
staying positive and making sure that you're not getting down, and and moving forward, and being unstoppable. So let me we're coming to our last question. So let me ask you, what the number one piece of advice, Nancy, you would give women over 40 who are looking to switch careers and stay focused and confident in their decision?
Hmm. I would say, I think it's like a two-part answer, but they go together. I would say, if you don't have a big enough why to make the change, it's going to be tough. You need to
Right.
figure out, what do you have at stake? For me, it was, I can't bear the idea of working for somebody. I can't stand it. I can't even, even to this day, right?
Right.
Um, so what's your why?
Mhm.
And I don't know, maybe there are many people out there who could do it, but I couldn't do it. I could not do something that I didn't really love,
Mm.
that it was not on purpose for me. I tried. I
Yes.
did stuff that people said, oh, you'll make money at this. And I gave it a go. And it turned my stomach, and I never made any money at it anyway, because I didn't like it. Because if you do something that you really like, you're going to want to keep going at it, and you won't want to give up. If you don't really like it and you're not passionate about it, it's going to be tough to stick with it.
That's right.
It doesn't mean you have to pick something that you're passionate about that won't earn a living for you. That's why I'm prosperous careers at doing what you love, not like any career doing what you love. There's a way, and I really believe, like I was talking to some people who are artists, and like the belief is that artists never make any money, writers never make any money. That's not true. Some artists make money, and today there are a lot of ways that artists can make money. You got to learn about them.
Right.
Um, you have to learn. There are always ways, but you have to. That's where the research comes in. So there's the psychology part of it, and then there's the strategy part of it. But if you don't have enough, if something's not at stake for you big enough, in my experience only, I don't know anybody who has stuck with it if they didn't really want something bad enough. Now, how do you make yourself want something bad enough? I think a lot of times people stop wanting something bad enough. Do you know why? Because they don't really think it's possible.
Mm.
The other book I read that was really powerful was The Art of Possibility. So I'm a subscriber, believer, devotee. I believe that if you really want something, you can make it happen. You might have to find different ways of doing it, but you can make it happen. So I would say find your true self.
Mhm.
And the other part, I mean, I know I gave you 3 things, but the last thing, and this is really big, stop listening to friends and family. Don't listen to them.
Right.
They are scared. They will make you afraid.
They
And
mean well, but they're not, they're acting out of fear instead of.
but they love you, but their love is fear-based. And secondly, they don't know you the way you know you. And many times they're giving you advice that they know nothing about.
Right.
They don't know, they think they know. And so you need objective input, objective, knowledgeable, supportive input. And most of the time people don't do that. And it takes them off track longer, and they feel lousy about themselves. And that's a sad thing.
That you're right, and that's excellent, great advice. So I know you said you're going to give me a few, but you gave me a lot, and you know what? It's all really good stuff, and everyone is going to take something from it, and I think it's awesome. So
Good.
I want to check on Facebook and just take a few minutes and see if we
Yeah.
do have any any I can't think. Any
Questions.
comments, questions? Thank you. Yes. So I don't see any right now, but when we put the interview up on Facebook later, and when people are commenting and questions, will go back and answer. And if you wouldn't mind, Nancy, you can go back and
Absolutely.
answer any comments or questions, and that would be wonderful.
Absolutely.
So this has been such an enlightening conversation, and I always enjoy talking with you so much. I feel like you have such a unique and extraordinary way of looking at things, yet it's so logical. So like you said, strategy
Psychology.
and yes, psychology. It really makes sense to me, and I feel like it's extremely valuable. So thank you.
And it's a mutual admiration society, because I need to say this to you. When I met you, you took a huge leap of faith, and it wasn't easy for you, and yet you did it. And that's what I mean about, nobody said that this is comfy. Who you've become, and I've watched you transform, I think it's delicious. That's what makes life so great, working with people like you. And it's just, and women especially, it's just really so heartwarming, makes life really, really beautiful. So I really want to thank you for inviting me to share. And I have some things to share with people if they want. If you
Yes.
guys are considering, if you're at the precipice of career change, I created, I like to create little templates for people because it's hard to organize your thinking sometimes when you're in the midst of all these different thoughts, right? So I created a prosperous career action plan, and I will post the link. It's free. You can download it and use it.
Awesome.
And it definitely covers the psychology and the strategy. So definitely use that. And then if you guys have any questions about how this all works, or how, if you ever want to have a one-on-one consult as you're, thinking about what the roadmap would be for you, I'll post a link for a complimentary clarity session with me, so that, I open up a few slots every week for people who want to really explore. So I'll give you guys those two things, and I'll post them in the comments on your page.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Is there any other way that people could contact you if they wanted to reach out to you?
Yes, you can reach me on LinkedIn. My profile is linkedin.com/in/the business fox. And I also have a YouTube channel. I'm going to post all these links for you, and it's all about. It's my channel on YouTube is the Career Fox TV, so it has lots of really good information there about career change. So you can check on, subscribe and check on. I release a video every Tuesday.
Wonderful. That's good to know. Thank you, Nancy. This has been such a fun conversation.
Thank you, Joyce.
Appreciate it.
And I really want to say, I want to acknowledge you for creating this community of women. This is really so
Thank you.
very exciting and very admirable, inspiring.
Well, I enjoy doing it, and I love helping to share everybody's stories, and everybody has one, and it's been a lot of fun for me. And selfishly, I get to meet these amazing people, including you, so that makes it even better. So we're going to finish our conversation, and I'm going to sign off, and I just want to thank everybody so much for spending time with us tonight. And again, thank you, Nancy, for being our guest tonight on the Confidence Hustle.
Thank you so much, and thank you. Great to be with you guys.
Thanks. Thank you. And so the Confidence Hustle, just so everybody knows, are brought to you by Joyce Goldberg Consulting. That's me. And I help women-owned small businesses create the professional content they need to build their credibility and attract more clients. And you can learn about my services on my website, and that's my name, joycegoldberg.com. And you can also watch some past Confidence Hustle interviews on my YouTube channel, which is my full name, and that's Joyce Goldberg Fine. So please reach out and contact me directly if you would like to know more about my services. And you can reach me on my email, which is jgoldbergfine@gmail.com, or go on my website and contact me there. There's a contact page. And again, thank you everybody for being with us. I will be back in touch with information about the next Confidence Hustle interview later this month. And in the meantime, everyone take care and stay healthy. And thanks so much again, Nancy, for sharing all this with us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Good night, everyone.
Night.